Did you know that a calorie deficit on its own isn't enough to get rid of your visceral fat? In fact, if you get your deficit wrong, you can make losing this type of fat even harder. And that's because visceral fat runs on a completely different system. So if you want to get rid of it, you'll need to follow these 5 rules. Starting with rule number 1, that you need to create the right kind of deficit. You see, when it comes to calorie deficits, most guys fall into the same trap. The chances are they've tried a restrictive, extreme diet in the past, whether it's keto or intermittent fasting, vegan, carnivore, or whatever else it might be. But they've realized over time that these solutions are very short-termists and for the most part, not very sustainable. The problem is they then find the calorie deficit and treat it the same as they would any other diet. They think that if they put themselves into an extreme 1,000 calorie deficit every single day, that they're going to lose the fat faster. They think they're going to cheat the system. And I get it. On paper, it makes sense, but it doesn't work in reality. And that's because quick fixes only work in the short term. And when you drop your calories too low, your body reads it as starvation, not strategy. You see, your body is insanely intelligent and it's very sensitive to change, which ultimately is why it's so hard to lose weight in the first place. So when it senses a big drop in your calories, it purposefully spikes your cortisol, your stress hormone, so that it makes you more alert. It makes you want to go out and hunt for food. You have to remember that our brains are 1 million years old. They aren't aware that we've got supermarket shelves stacked full of food. They aren't aware that we're able to just tap a button on our phone and have food delivered to our front door whenever we want. But it doesn't just spike your cortisol. It also lowers your thyroid output and it even slows down your metabolism. And all of this is very bad news when it comes to visceral fat, because visceral fat thrives in a high stress, high cortisol environment. So the aim of the game when it comes to visceral fat is reducing cortisol whilst maintaining a sustainable calorie deficit. So what does that look like? Well, the sweet spot for most guys is a daily 500 calorie deficit or a weekly 3,500 calorie deficit. That maths is important because if you're in a weekly 3,500 calorie deficit, which you can manage how you choose, just like you would your bank account, it means you're going to lose about a pound of fat each week. And that is because there are 3,500 calories in 1 pound of fat. Now, you can calculate your calorie deficit using the fancy formula on the screen if you like, or you can click the top link in the description that's underneath this video and use the completely free calculator that I built just for you. And you're in luck because I've literally just finished revamping the calculator. So now you won't just get your calorie deficit, which is calculated based on your age, your weight, your height, your sex, and how active your lifestyle is, but I'll also calculate your precise macronutrients for you, your protein, your carbs, and your fat. And these aren't generic calculations. These are personalized to what you put into the calculator. So it does all the heavy lifting for you. It's completely free and it's only going to take you 30 seconds. But if you want to take this a step further, here's a pro tip. Calorie quantity, the amount of food that you're eating, is going to decide how fast you lose the fat. It's calories in versus calories out. But calorie quantity is just as important. Now, when you're first starting out with all this stuff, just focus on calorie quantity, i.e. hitting your calories consistently. You don't want to overwhelm yourself by trying to eat the right amount of food and the right food. But once you're comfortable hitting your calories, that's when you want to turn the attention to the quality of the food that you're putting in your mouth. Because certain foods, namely processed foods that are high in trans fats and added sugar and full of chemicals that you and I can't even pronounce, are going to put more stress on your nervous system and spike your cortisol level. And remember, when cortisol is high, your body is going to cling on to that visceral fat for dear life. So that is rule number 1. You want to be creating the right kind of deficit. Rule number 2 is to take your recovery as seriously as you do your training. So tell me if this sounds familiar. You're sick and tired of looking down when you go for a piss and not being able to see it. You hate who you see in the mirror. And you're too embarrassed to take your top off when you go to the pool on holiday. So in a flash, you decide, enough's enough. I'm getting rid of this belly. So you start smashing the gym, lifting weights, doing cardio, eating clean, the works. But you're still staying up late at night, doom scrolling on your phone and watching Netflix into the wee hours. And I get it. Going to bed on time like a good boy is boring. Let's be honest. I think a lot of us are fighting childhood programming where we were given bedtimes and now we're trying to prove to ourselves, prove to other people, I don't know, that we're big boys and we can stay up as late as we want. But you're only doing yourself harm. You see, this sleep study, which I'll put on the screen right now, came out recently and the results are absolutely staggering. They separated two groups of people, put them on the same calorie deficit, and you can see here that they both lost the same amount of weight. But the group who were well slept lost fat and retained muscle, whereas the group who were underslept lost muscle and retained fat. Why? Cortisol. You see, sleep isn't just rest. It's when your hormones rebalance, and cortisol is a hormone. And the studies have shown that just one night of bad sleep can increase your cortisol by 40%. Not only that, it can also reduce your insulin sensitivity by up to 25%. And that is the difference between burning the fat and storing it. So you can do all the hard work in the gym. You can eat the cleanest diet that you possibly can. You can take all the magic supplements. But if you don't put your phone down and turn off the TV at night, and you're just going to end up with that dad bod. You're going to end up the skinny fat guy, and nobody wants that. But I have good news for you. You don't need to sleep anymore. It's not about sleep quantity. It's about sleep quality and sleep consistency. You see, going to bed and waking up at the same time locks in your circadian rhythm. And that is what regulates your cortisol and your testosterone levels. If you then add in some morning sunlight within 30 minutes of you waking up, that then anchors your body clock and flattens any afternoon cortisol. Couple that with making sure that you're finishing your last meal about 3 hours before you go to sleep and trying to make sure that it's high in protein and carbs. That's going to increase your serotonin and your melatonin, which is going to increase the amount of deep sleep that you get. And of course, the big elephant in the room, if you put your phone down 30 minutes before bed, that's going to massively help too. But above all, one of the things that I don't think enough people are doing is investing in their sleep environment. I'm pointing over there because that is where my bedroom is. And I just this week spent £400. So what's that, like $500 on brand new bedding. It pained me to do it, trust me. But I know that getting some nice pillows and a good quality duvet and a nice bed sheet or whatever they're called, it's going to pay back in weeks, if not even days. The next thing that I want to buy is a new mattress. Now that is going to be an even bigger investment, which I'm going to do in time. But again, it's well worth it. Think about it. You sleep in your bed every single night. If you were to spend £1,000 or $1,000 really sprucing it up, it works out to pennies and cents each night. But the gains that you're going to get, not just physically, but more important, mentally, not only are they going to compound over time, but the ROI, the return on investment that you're going to get, it's going to pay for itself in no time. So that's rule number 2. Rule number 3 is to focus on your NEAT. So NEAT stands for non-exercise activity thermogenesis. It's the exercise, or it's the movement, I should say, that you do outside of the gym. And this honestly is the silent weapon that is the most effective thing you can do to fight your visceral fat. And that's because it burns calories without triggering stress hormones, without triggering that cortisol. But it's not about necessarily doing 10,000 steps every day. It's about the frequency of those steps and the timing. So let me dig into that a little bit. An elite insight that I can give you here that only the top 1% of guys are doing is to walk after your meals. And that's because even a 10-minute stroll can massively improve the glucose disposal in your bloodstream by up to about 30%. And that's important because it keeps your insulin nice and low and your cortisol steady, which is the perfect combination for visceral fat loss. Also, ditch the arbitrary step count obsession. There is nothing magic about doing 10,000 steps a day. If you were to do 9,999, you are not a failure. The magic is in doing more than you are doing right now. So what I get most of my clients to do is we figure out their baseline, so the number of steps that they've averaged over the previous month per day. And then we try to increase that number by 10 to 20% each week until they're averaging 8 to 10,000. 10,000 steps might sound like a lot. At the end of the day, it's about an hour and a half, 90 minutes of walking a day. But you don't have to do it all at once, and you don't even have to make it more intentional. Instead, what you want to do is build movement rituals. So whether that's walking phone calls, parking further away from the shops that you're going to, even just like evening decompression walks after a stressful day. One of the newest things that I'm trying myself, because I am sat at the laptop most of my days, is setting an alarm every hour and sort of forcing myself to build the habit of moving around for 10 minutes. Because if you think about it, if I'm working 9 hours in a day and there's 90 minutes to reach the 10,000, 10 minutes times 9 hours is 90 minutes. So it's going to help me get to that 10,000 steps. And an even better tip, which I can give a lot of you guys because I know you're not doing it, is to walk to your gym. First and foremost, there are so many gyms all over the place now. Pretty much every single one of you is going to live within a 20 to 30 minute walk of one. Secondly, it acts as a perfect warm-up. So ditch the car, walk to the gym, and that's going to give you about 6,000 to 8,000 steps just doing that. Now, of course, I know you're not going to the gym every single day, but even if you're doing 3 sessions a week, that puts a big dent in your target. And the last thing I would say on this as well is to not worry too much about your daily target. A little bit like your calories, you want to see your step target in a week's context. So let's just keep the numbers simple and say that you were trying to hit 10,000 steps a day, right? That's 70,000 steps over the course of a week. Now, you might have a crazy busy Monday where you're up at 5 a.m. in the office at 7 and not leaving until 7. By the time you get home, maybe you want to see the missus, spend time with the kids, eat some food, or just crash out and go to bed. I completely get it. Getting your 10,000 steps in on that day, it's probably going to be pretty difficult. But maybe you have a more chilled Wednesday where a couple of meetings get cancelled. Or over the weekend when you're not working and you have more time, that's when you consciously and mindfully work to get your step count up. You recover the lost steps from the busy days and make up for it in the quieter days. And then you look at your steps over the course of a week rather than obsessing over yours every single day. And I'm not sure if I made it clear earlier, but that's exactly what you want to be doing with your calories too. Yes, a 500 calorie daily deficit is a good target to aim for. But again, we are not robots. We are humans. Every day is different. Some days are more stressful. Some days are more busy. Some days you just really need that damn pizza. So don't try to think about hitting your calorie deficit every single day. Just think about hitting that 3,500 calorie deficit each week. The way a lot of my clients do it is they will front load the hard work. They will front load the deficit because they know as they get towards the back end of the week, their willpower is going to be a little bit lower. They're going to be a bit more tired. They're going to want to go out, see their friends, spend time with their kids, their families, whoever it may be. So they know if they bank those calories earlier in the week, they can afford to go out and enjoy themselves the weekend without stressing that they're going to knock themselves out of that calorie deficit. And taking that sort of more zoomed out approach, whether it is with your calories, whether it's your steps or your workouts, which spoiler alert, we're going to talk about next. That honestly is how high performing men stay in the game. They're not obsessing over every single day being perfect. They're just making sure that over the course of the week, they get the job done. So yeah, that's rule number 3. Let's talk about rule number 4, which is strength training, but with a recovery mindset. So training hard, lifting weights in the gym or doing cardio temporarily raises your cortisol. And that's absolutely fine. It's very normal, but not recovering, which we spoke about in rule number 2, raises it permanently. And most men over 35, over 40 are doing way too much volume, too many sets to failure with too little recovery. But just remember, you aren't training to lose the fat. That happens outside of the gym, which we just spoke about in rule number 3 with your NEAT. You're training in the gym to build your body and to build your mind as well, to build character, to build resilience, to build a new mindset. So what you want to do instead of absolutely battering yourself every single gym session is use something called auto-regulation. This is essentially where you train based on how you feel that day. Now, I will caveat this, that you do not want to be that guy who says, well, I'm just skipping the gym today because I'm listening to my body. Most of you don't need to listen to your body. Most of you need to listen to me, because your body, or your brain, I should say more precisely, is what is keeping you stuck in the same loop and the same bad habits and the same body fat percentage that you're currently in and you've probably been in for years. But when you do wake up that day and you feel a little bit ill, under the weather, or you've just slept terribly, which happens to all of us, you still want to be turning up, but you want to be dropping the volume and you want to be dropping the intensity. The other thing you want to be doing is making sure that you're keeping your sessions to 60 minutes max. Past that, your testosterone is going to dip and your cortisol is going to go up. So you want to keep the sessions intentional, where you're getting in, you're doing the work, you're pushing yourself, and intense. So you're not taking 5-minute rest periods where you're scrolling on Instagram or looking around at all the pretty girls. You're getting in, you're getting the job done, and you're getting out. And trust me, when you start doing this, when you start putting some real intentionality into your training, you will realize just how few men are actually doing it. You will start to spot trends. You will start to notice that 90% of guys are spending 5 minutes in between sets scrolling on that phone. And you'll become pissed off, just like I do when you want to get on that next machine, but some 20-year-old is hogging it because he's looking at Snapchat. And just like your calories, just like your steps, you want to focus on total weekly output, not necessarily the daily effort. Some sessions are going to be absolutely incredible. Some sessions are going to suck. Yes, you can do everything in your power to raise the probability that that session is going to be great. You can eat well, you can go to bed on time, you can create the best sleep environment in the world, you can say positive affirmations to yourself, but sometimes you just wake up and feel like a dog. The answer isn't to stay in bed and take another rest day. The answer is to drop the volume, drop the intensity, but keep moving forward. Again, take that zoomed out approach, keep going, and focus on your weekly output. Because at the end of the day, 3 high-quality sessions a week is far better than 5 half-baked ones. And a little bonus tip for you, post-workout carbs are going to lower your cortisol and replenish your glycogen. Remember, cortisol is elevated when your brain wants your body to get up and move. It is essentially when your brain senses that something isn't quite right in your body. And in this case, it's sensing that it's damn hungry. So if you feed your body, if you feed your brain, it will bring that cortisol level back down. So that's rule number 4. But I have saved the most important rule to last. Rule number 5 is to just start. And this is the most important rule because it's the rule that most men don't follow. They wait until life calms down, work slows down, or motivation is high. But you and I both know that that day is never coming. So stop overthinking and start taking action. The top 1% never wait for perfect conditions. We start small, we start messy, but we start. Because starting, it changes your state. It increases your self-belief. It lowers your anxiety. And ultimately, it helps you to start building the most powerful drug in the world that you cannot buy. And that's momentum. And what momentum gives you is proof that your brain is in control. And funnily enough, me doing this video today is the perfect example of this rule. So for context, I have literally just moved house. If you didn't recognize the new background from my previous videos, I am stressed out of my mind. I am barely unpacked. This light up here, which you can't see, doesn't work. The aircon is on the fritz. The last thing that I wanted to do on this Saturday afternoon, by the way, is stand here and record this YouTube video. And even as I've been going through it, there's so many lines that I've messed up and gone, damn it, Doug, I could have said that so much better, but I haven't let it stop me. You cannot wait for the motivation to kick in. You create motivation through taking action, but not starting does the exact opposite. You know when you've had something on your to-do list for 10 weeks and it gives you that sort of low-level anxiety that every single day that you don't do it, it just builds and builds and builds. You put it off because you think, oh, that's going to be really hard. It's going to take me hours. And then once you do it, you realize it takes you like 14 minutes. I actually had this yesterday when I needed to shut down my UK-based company. I thought I was going to have to fill in all these tax returns. I was going to have to do all these forms. I've been putting it off for weeks, if not months. It took me 14 minutes. 14. I had to laugh at myself. So listen, we are all guilty of procrastination, me included. But just know that every day you procrastinate on starting this, you're actually making yourself feel worse. So if you want to feel better, just start. And listen, this time of year is when we separate the winners and the losers, the men from the boys. The little boys are going to celebrate Halloween and Christmas with the children and the women, whereas the men, we're starting right now. Plenty of guys have already switched off and convinced themselves that they'll start fresh on January the 1st. You and I both know that that isn't going to happen. Trust me, I have seen this hundreds of times. You can give someone the perfect roadmap, a personalized blueprint. You can help them remove all the obstacles and clear all the excuses, but they still will not start. Why? Because they haven't got themselves in the right mindset. And I think a lot of the time that's because they haven't figured out what their big goal is. There's a Japanese philosophy which I recently stumbled across called misogi. Now, I am going to butcher this, so I apologize to the Japanese in advance, but I'll give it my best shot. Misogi my understanding at least, is essentially the idea where once a year or once every 6 months, you set yourself a big, scary goal. A goal that forces you to destroy your old self and reinvent him, to build him back from the ground up. Because when you set big, scary goals, whether they're fitness, finance, family, or business related, they are meant to help you to realize that the current version of yourself won't be able to achieve them. But as soon as you set that goal, your brain starts to think, okay, who do I need to be? And what do I need to do to achieve this goal? What are the habits that I need to start doing? What are the habits that I need to get rid of? What are the sacrifices that I need to make? And then once you've kind of processed all of that, you realize, hold on a minute, I just need to start. So start small, start messy. Implement one of the rules that I've walked you through today, but don't wait until Monday. Start right now. Don't just tap away and watch another YouTube video. Get up and do something. If not for you, do it for me, who has stood here on a Saturday afternoon doing this video when the motivation is at 0, energy is at 0, and stress is at 100. You have to laugh, actually, at the irony of me doing a video about reducing cortisol to help you burn visceral fat whilst my cortisol is through the roof. But guess what I'm going to do this afternoon? I'm going to implement all of the stuff that I have talked about today, because I like to practice what I preach. But listen, the information, whether it's from this video or any other video, is only half the battle. Yes, I have given you clarity on what you need to do. And I promise you, if you follow these 5 key rules, that visceral fat is going to start falling off of you. But without the implementation, the missing piece of the puzzle that so many guys struggle with, without the consistency, it is all going to count for nothing. And this is exactly what I help guys with on my coaching program. I give them a personalized blueprint that's built around their lifestyle. They get their own workout program, their own nutrition targets, but most important of all, they get structure, support, and accountability from me. We do weekly check-ins, we do monthly coaching calls, and they get to become a part of my private community, full of guys who are on the same mission, who are trying to better themselves. And trust me, proximity is power. The closer you are to a group of guys, a group of people who are trying to achieve the same goal as you, the faster and the higher chance that you will achieve that goal. So if you want to find out how the coaching program works, why it works, and see all of the results that I've helped a lot of guys get this year, then you can click the link, the second link that is underneath this video, and check it out. If not, no stress. Best of luck to you. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you in the next video.